Hello, ma'am, and all others. First of all, we would like to thank you for giving us this golden opportunity for sharing our view and opinion. And in a group, we are three members, that is Pradyuman Dubey, Shivam, and I, Tushar Bhatt. And our topic for the PPT is application of labor law to IT/ITES. In this topic, we would be discussing about labor law, origin of a labor law, some important labor laws, applications, and conclusion. So the first question that arises in our mind that what is labor law? So the answer is labor law is a law which addresses the relationship among employer and employee in the labor organization. So and the final goal of the labor law is to bring both employer and employee on the same level. There shouldn't be any gap between employer and employer. The gap These gaps are to be discarded by the labor law. That is why labor law has came to existence. In the next slide, we can see two photos, one with a document and other by the worker's image. In this photo, we can say that the labor law is a documentation or legal law that is applicable to the each and every organization where labor or employer or employers works. The next slide is origin of the labor law. How the labor law emerged and how the labor law come into existence. So the labor law emerged when the employers tried to restrict the power of workers organization and keeping the labor cost low. The worker began demanding the better condition and the right to organize. So as to improve their standard of living, employers cost increased due to the work demand. This led to a chaotic situation which required the intervention of a government. In order to put an end, government enacted many labor law in the country. That is how the origin of a labor law came to the existence. If we talk about the India, the labor law came into existence in the British era. In the British era, there was a many problem like child labor was in its peak. Labor were not getting their overtime wages, and labor were asked to do work as much as they can. That means that there was no time limit for the work. And as the Factory Act introduced in 1883, it gives to the first stipulations of 8 hours of a work, abolition of a child labor, and the introduction of overtime wages for the beyond 8 hours work. In the next slide, we can see a picture in which we can see that a great revolution took a part where each labor and each employer were having some sort of a problem by their work. The demand was 5 day a week, right to organize, shorter hours, abolition of a child labor, and as a woman, social security, higher wages, and collective bargaining. That what they all needed, and that is what the labor law came to the existence. So far, we were discussing about the labor law, its impact, and how it get originated in India and other part of the world. But our main topic is that important labor law to IT and ITS. So there are some important labor law that is applicable to IT/ITs, that is Trade Union Act 1926, Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, Employers Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952, the Employee Compensation Act 1923, the Employee State Insurance Act 1948, the Contract Labor Act 1970, Equal Remuneration Act 1976, the Minimum Wages Act 1948, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946, the Employment Exchange Compulsory Notification of Vacancy Act 1959. There are some special act and law that is only applicable for the women. That is Labor Welfare Enactment for Women in the IT and ITES industry. That is the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, the Sexual Harassment of a Woman at Workplace Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Now we should talk about IT/ITES. That is, what is information technology and what is information technology enabled services in India. IT sector. IT stand for information technology. So IT sector is one of the biggest factor that has helped in India to make it mark on the world map, and it is booming IT industrial sector. The contribution being made by the IT industry toward the country GDP led to the steady growth of India economy. Now we should talk about IT/ITES. That is, what is information technology and what is information technology enabled services in India. In this slide we can see a pic which is of first IT company, that is Tata Consultancy Service. We also know it by TCS. It has a many branch in India. It was the first IT company set up in India. History of IT sector in India. India's IT service industry was born in Mumbai in 1967 with the creation of a Tata Consultancy Services, who in 1977 partnered with Bros, which began India's export of IT services. The first software export zone SEEPZ, that stand for Santa Cruz Electronic Export Processing Zone, gave a born to the modern day IT park, which was established in Mumbai in 1973. That was the first IT park in the India. More than 80% of a country's software export were from SEEPZ in 1980s. Other than Mumbai IT Park, there are also many IT parks in India. That is Hyderabad IT Hub, Tech Park Chennai, DLF, Delhi NCR IT Hub. In Delhi NCR, there are many major cities like Gurgaon, Greater Noida, New Delhi and Noida, and Bangalore IT Hub. After IT, it comes a turn of ITES. ITES stand for Information Technology Enabled Service. That is ITES sector in India. ITES sector in India. ITES is Information Technology Enabled Services is defined as outsourcing of process that can be enabled with information technology and covers diverse areas like finance, HR, administration, health, care, telecommunication, manufacturing, etc. This internet service provider aims in providing B2B e-commerce solution, that is business to business e-commerce solutions.
Hello everyone, myself Shivam, and from here I will take the command. So let's discuss today the objectives of ITES. As we all know that ITES was formerly known as Indonet, and their main objectives were enabling business strategies and achieving organizational business goals like targets. So basically we will start with enabling business strategies. In enabling business strategies, like they usually focus more on the plan, all the operational work involves like planning, decision making, and setting up the pros and cons, like how we can handle the situation if there will be any unexpected situation. And on the other hand, we have achieving organizations business goals. The goals can be like different thing, like achieving employee satisfaction, any targets for the company's growth, product strategy, business goals, any particular surveys and all. Let's move to the next slide. Here we have shown some MNCs like multinational companies, example Wipro, Microsoft, Huawei, HP, IBM, Infosys, Nokia, and many others. So let's have a brief on IT and ITES industries and its growth. So here we will begin with application of labor law in IT and ITES sector. As we all know, it's not been a while since IT laws have been enacted. The awareness of the act has not been much prevailing, thus employees are unaware of their applicabilities. Just like the industry labor law also applies to the IT and IT industries as well. Even though the employers are still in this misconception that they cannot form the trade union. However, in the present Article 19.a C section enables every citizen of the country to form an association or unions, where an employee, being a workman or not, is a matter of concern for judicial security. But nowadays the question arises that whether a software professional, software engineer, IT employee can be termed as an employee or a workman. Well, as we all know that the answer to this depends on various factors and activities such as the nature of the work of the individual, his remuneration or wages, his decision-making powers, uses of mental facilities, extent of involvement with the business of his company, and power of supervision, and many others. Also, in relation to this, it is very necessary nowadays for us to understand the applicability of the labor laws to the IT and ITAS sectors. Now let's discuss about the Trade Union Act 1926. This act was passed basically with the objective to make establishing and functioning of the trade unions proper and systematic. And formation of trade unions is also covered under the fundamental right prescribed in Section 19.1 Section C of the Indian Constitution, which help us to understand briefly the right to form a union is a fundamental right which even the state cannot take away from the citizens. This act is extended to the entire India and applies to all kind of unions of workers and association of employees which aims to regularize labor management relation. A trade union is a combination of whether temporary or permanent formed for regulating the relations not between workmen or between employers or employers. It is for all, whether it is employers, workmen, and every part of the business which they are providing their services. And coming to our next topic, that is Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. As we all know that under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, the law which help us to govern the gratuity which is to be paid to every employee and worker who has worked for a period of not less than 5 years. And it is usually given to the employees when they are unable to work, whether they have retired or they have resigned for the better opportunities they are getting, or even in terms of their death, or they have become disabled, physically handicapped, which doesn't allow them to work in that organization. And if there is a case of death or disability, it's not important that they have worked for more than 5 years for the company. If they haven't worked and they have died because of some reasons, they are also eligible for the payment of gratuity from their organization. In India, the Payment of Gratuity Act was passed in the Parliament of India on 21st of August 1972, and it came in force within 1 month, that is from September 1972. And coming to our next topic, which is the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. I think most of us do have a little knowledge about this because of our government who releases regularly the updates about this act. In the earlier days, this act was applicable to any establishment employing 12 or more persons, and it is the responsibility of the employer as well to ensure the bidability and provisions under the Provident Fund Act. Under this act, if a person's salary ceiling of the employees, that is 6,500, that means any employee earning less than 6,500 at that time will enjoy the benefits of the same. And for those who were earning more at that time, they do had a choice from making Provident Fund contribution by applying in their respective companies. That means they were eligible to exempt the amount by themselves. Since it was a good saving and security scheme for the employees, therefore every organization started enrolling their employees under this act for their benefit and welfare. And it basically deals with three major acts, which are the Employees Pension Scheme 1995, the Employees Provident Fund Scheme 1952, which we are discussing right now, and the Employees Deposited Linked Insurance Scheme, which was commenced in 1976. So moving on to our next topic, which is the Employee Compensation Act, which was earlier known as the Workman Compensation Act, as it covered basically workers or workmen, which mainly aims at compensating the employees or workers for various injuries, even for their deaths occurred during the course of action. Under this Act of Workman Compensation or the Employee Compensation Act, if a worker or employee dies or get injured during the official hours while performing any task or official duty, the organization has to pay the compensation for their future welfare. So moving to our next topic, which is the Employee State Insurance Act 1948. Under this act, which applies to industries and establishments within a geographical area which has been notified by the appropriate government to be covered in the act. This act usually covers employee whose compensation is up to 15,000 in the case where the commercial establishment has been bought under. Let's take an example. Suppose if an employee has been covered under this act on the basis that his salary is being less than 15,000, then in that case he or she will not be eligible to enjoy the benefits under the Employee Compensation Act, which was commenced in 1923. So now we have the Contract Labor Act 1970, which applies to all those employments carried out by the commercial establishment for the purpose of loading, cleaning, maintenance, cooking, security cleaning, and many others. The registration of employee is mandatory under this act. So let's take an example of the contractor, where the number of registration of employee is 20 or more than 20. In that case, the contractor has to get all of their 20 or more than 20 employees registered under this act as well. Therefore, we can say the principal employer is responsible for the payment of wages and all the statutory compliances. And as earlier told, it's also applies to the household hired by the establishment for the upkeep and other mental duties. This act helps to ensure the contract labor is not misused by the contractor or the principal employer, and the rights of the workers employed under contract labor is protected. So that was all from my side. Now Pradyuman will help us to know more about the next topic, which is the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. Over to you, Pradyuman. Thank you.
Equal Remuneration Act 1976. According to the section of this act, it is applicable to all the establishment to whom notification has been issued by the appropriate government. The IT and IT's industries are covered under the admit of this act by the notification issued on 2nd March 1977. Section number 144E. It states that employers cannot discriminate against man and woman in a matter of recruitment. It also ensures that the employer must pay equal remuneration to the man and woman for the similar nature of work, as you can see in the picture. As you can see, both man and woman are standing on an equal position on the weightage machine. As per law, both man and woman must be paid an equal amount of remuneration for the same work or work of similar nature, and there should not be any discrimination. The Minimum Wages Act 1948. The Minimum Wages Act 1948 makes sure that a minimum amount of payment is given to the worker who are working under the company. The Act tries to minimize the risk of exploitation of the employees in the company. The minimum wages which must be given to the employees are specified and changed by the central government from time to time. Industrial Employment Standing Order Act 1946. The Indian Employment Standard Order Act 1946 was passed by the British government to deal with the constant fight between the Indian workers or laborers with the British industrialists. The Act states that there shall be equal opportunities and conditions available to each and every worker, and there shall be no discriminations on the basis of fact that whether the employment was done before or after the passing of the Act. The Act is to be applied to all types of industries, be that private or government. There is one exemption guaranteed to the industries which can be guaranteed by the state government if they feel necessary. Section 14 of the Act gives the power to the state government to exempt a type of industry from the Act. The state government can exempt any type of industries, and all the industries falling under that category will be exempted. Many state governments have exempted IT industries from the Act. The IT industries have always tried to use their power, money, and attempt impact that they possess in the Indian economy to get the rebates in different taxes. The IT industries always tries to pressurize the government and try to twist the laws of their own personal needs. The government is also forced to work as per their requirements because they employ a lot of people and their contribution to the economy as unmatchable. Also, these companies are often major political funder through individual employment exchange. Compulsory Notification of Vacancies Act 1959. This act applies to an establishment operating in the private sector. It applies to those commercial establishments where 25 or more workers are employed to work for remunerations. The act empowers appropriate government for issue notification or directing a private sector that before filling up of any vacancy of any employment, the notification of such vacancies must be transferred to the employment exchange so that an employer can get a benefit of it. Labor Welfare Enactment for Women in the IT and IT Industries. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961 was passed by legislature with the sole motive to make sure that the working women are not forced to continue their work even when they should not, as per they are pregnant or they are expecting a baby. The act makes sure that women are given appropriate holidays of 6 months as maternity leave, and also sees that no industry is trying to discriminate on the basis of their gender. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. The Sexual Harassment of Women Act 2016 has been formulated after the Supreme Court in the case of Vishakha. State of Rajasthan gave direction to the executive regarding the necessity to legislate an act that could deal with the problem of sexual harassment which a woman faced while working under any institution or any industries. Problem faced by IT and IT's employees. The employees are working more than the prescribed working hour but still are not getting any overtime payment. Many call centers and other IT companies are forcing the employees to work frequently in the night shift without any extra payment or compensation, which is an violation of the law, which very clearly specifies that a person cannot be allowed to work in night shift for more than a prescribed period of time. If any employees try to raise his or her voice against the working hours of the company, then he or she is rusticated from his job, which is a violation of the fundamental rights of the person. IT and IT industries are openly violating the law regarding the conditions and environment which is to be created by industries for its employees. The IT and IT industries try their best to attempt their employees from the definition of workers or laborers, which gives them their rights. In many cases, the industries give employment to the worker informally, that is, no paper or no document is presented to them which could prove that they were working for the company, which gives them the freedom to terminate their employees and when they like. Many of IT and IT industries do not give maternity leave to the women which they have been provided by the law to them. Conclusion: the industrial or labor laws of the countries are also applicable to the IT and IT industries, but not all the laws. The IT industries have been exempted from many labor laws which are applicable to other industries. The IT industries try their best to avoid the obligations which are imposed on them by the laws, but no one is above the law, and the fundamental right of a worker or an employee cannot be violated in any case by anyone. That's all from our side. Thank you so much.